Welcome back to what is now our third episode in the UnwAIred series of podcasts from VASS. If you're new to the series, my name is Chris Brown. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Intelygenz, which is a division of VASS Company specialized in the deployment of artificial intelligence solutions into production. Today, I'm joined by Jonás Da Cruz, someone who's very familiar to me. Jonás is our head of AI and co-founder at Intelygenz. And we're going to take a little trip down memory lane, Jonás, and we're going to use that evolution of AI journey as a vehicle to pick out some key aspects to help our audience understand what are the key considerations to successfully deploy AI, because times have changed. So welcome.
I'm very happy to be here.
It's good to have you. So, get us kicked off on our little trip down memory lane. It's going to be interesting because there's been some lumps and bumps along the way, right?
A little bit, yeah.
A little few lumps and bumps along the way. It's definitely, when you start any cutting edge or bleeding edge journey, you know it's not going to be smooth sailing. But can you just get us started today and take us back to where it all began at the new dawn of AI back in, 2014?
Actually, when we created the company in 2002, we started just with some AI projects.
Wow.
Very old-fashioned AI. But we were going from lab to the production in just a few months, which is not even today something easy to achieve. But we were we were deploying an installation of car plates recognition in a parking lot, and it was working very well. We were working with totally different techniques than what we are doing today, but it was computer vision and it was AI. The really step forward was in 2014. You were there with us.
Yeah, I was part of that. Yeah,
exactly,
I remember those TensorFlow days. Keras, can you talk to us a bit about that? Because that was interesting. We were early, right? We were really early.
We were very early in this new AI wave because we were in our offices in San Francisco, very close to what everything was happening in 2014. I think that year Google launched TensorFlow, first version.
I remember.
And we were checking if we can use these kind of frameworks to apply AI in real business. The problem was not only to have this kind of frameworks and tools, but
or lack of frameworks and tools.
Yeah, yeah. But it was very important that even if you have this kind of software that you can use to make it easier, you usually don't have access to the kind of computer power that you are going to need. But at that moment, NVIDIA was launching new GPUs with something called CUDA cores that matches very well with some of the maths that you need to perform when you are using machine learning and deep learning. And it was like, okay, if we invest a few $1,000s, like 1,000 per GPU, so maybe we can have 4 or 5, and it's not a big investment. And combining this with these frameworks, if you remember, we were able to do beverage recognitions in fridges with horrible in a cooler with horrible cameras and horrible connections, trying to figure out how to
horrible everything.
Horrible everything. But some basics were very well established, because today we're still using frameworks like TensorFlow, PyTorch, or others, and we're still using GPUs in another way, because everything has evolved a lot, but it's still there.
I have to tell you, I have still one of those GPUs for nostalgia in my garage at home, and one day I'm going to frame it and tell that story of those early days. But we did do the cooler. We did do the cooler project. It was successful. It was tough. right? Let's be honest, it was tough to get to where we wanted to be. It was, I think you could solve that problem today significantly quicker, easier, more successful, right, than we did back then. But we did it. But it's that lab to production piece that was always the sticky piece.
I also tell you that yes, it could be easier today, but not super easy. Some parts are totally still being complex, because when we are doing classic software applications or engineering, you have like a deterministic workflow or one-way pipeline of workflow. So it's like, you know that this step is gonna have this outcome, and the next step is gonna have this outcome, and if everything is working fine, it will be done, and it will be binary of works or doesn't work. But when we are working in AI, the workflow is quite complex, quite more complex. You have
software, but different. Right?
Still being software, and there are many software practices that you have to still applying, like TDD and quality assurance, many things. But the most important thing is you have this workflow, complex workflow full of steps that are not deterministic, are probabilistic or stochastic. So it's totally different. You cannot, even when you are a conversation with a customer, you cannot tell him or tell them this is gonna work or it's not gonna work. It's gonna work in more or less or at this level of accuracy or performance and this kind of thing. But you cannot say at the beginning if it's gonna work or not.
So I was just about to bring that up. So it's not that conversation of, you know, I always say to our clients, I spend a long time with our clients, especially front end of projects, of when we're doing automation projects or if we've embarked on some form of automation around the AI, we know it's going to work, right? It might take us a week less or a week more, but it's going to work, right? We're going to get it. We're going to get the job done. And that whole deterministic piece that goes all, a non-deterministic piece of the AI, which you're talking at that deep technical level, transcends all the way up the conversation to the client. And I think that's the first pick out of this journey that I would take of, you know, even the initial conversation, the initial certainty of where you're going with AI, you can't be super sure it's going to work, right? You don't know that it's going to be
work at certain level.
It will work, but enough to hit the business case level or to satisfy the need of that process or operation you're trying to achieve. You have to have that conversation early with your clients.
First day, you need to have a clear ROI, or maybe you are going to fail. Even if you are 99% accurate, we have done several times.
We have.
And they needed 99.99, and it was almost impossible, and it wasn't possible.
Well, not just the level of accuracy. We've done projects where we've changed our processes, right, based on the back of some significant learning on projects where we've gone into a project assuming that if we're successful, and assuming there's the danger word right there, right? Assuming that if we're successful, then this thing's going to go to production and change the world for this client. And we execute the project. It's technically successful. It achieves the classification, the prediction, the outcome that the client's looking for beyond the expectation of accuracy. And they take the solution and say, I don't know what to do with that. I haven't thought about how I'm going to implement that with the flows and the rest of my business, and how am I going to absorb this new knowledge into my business. So we've even learned from that process as well.
Also, the people involved on the current processes are going to be impacted by this new, because AI is not only, I'm going to say, replacing, not humans, but some tasks of humans are performing. They are replacing very specific tasks, but not cognitive tasks. And now with AI, you can replace or improve some cognitive tasks that humans are doing. So as an organization, you need to know what is going to be the process when I'm going to put this AI improving this operation that I'm doing here or whatever. what next? So because maybe you are not ready. Actually, we have seen several times that they are not
They're
ready.
not ready from a change management point of view. You know, I used to say, not even that long ago, Jonás, I used to say to our clients, there was a lot of talk about AI, early hype, maybe not 2014, but early, right? AI is going to replace all of these human jobs. We weren't even going to talk about this today, by the way. We've already, I knew this would happen. We've already gone somewhere else, but we'll be fine, right?
Sure.
Hold tight, we'll be okay. I used to talk to clients and say, it's not AI that's going to replace jobs. It's the automation. So we've always automated around the AI we've put in. We historically we came from an automation background and morphed into that AI very early, but we morphed into that AI company. So I was always of the opinion like AI is not going to replace the jobs. It's the automation that takes the jobs away. And now just look, that actually doesn't hold true anymore. And I know we're not going down that avenue today, but that's how fast this whole journey is moving and how fast the whole technology is moving on.
Yeah, one thing that is almost impossible today to try to figure out where we are going with this is that if you remember a few years ago, we were all saying that taxi drivers are done. Machines, AI is going to take their jobs. No. It's software engineers what are in danger right now because it's going much faster, that part. So we don't know what is going to happen.
Yeah, so I guess the point you're making there is, Tesla launched their autopilot and that was it. No one's driving again, right? In the next year, Elon's good at that, to be fair. In the next year, Cybertruck is in the next. Right? So he's amazing. He's fantastic, right? And he does some incredible things. But it didn't happen. It hasn't happened to date. It's a very, very hard problem, right? The edge cases are incredibly difficult. The variances across different worlds, roads of different countries' roads, etc. It's a difficult problem. And the point you're making is, but in the software world, that thing's just shot off, and where all the software engineers were sitting all smug about the taxi drivers losing their job. Well, hold on a second.
And I don't think
the tables are turning.
And I don't think we can figure out who is next, because I don't know who is next. Maybe people in audio and video industry or
who
writers. I don't know.
We don't know, right? We don't know. Look, we haven't even got out of our 2014 bumpy road, TensorFlow, trying to get things into production with no frameworks, no tools, or not great frameworks and tools, certainly to what we've got today. Let's try and move this forward. So I know I took us off on a little tangent there that we weren't meant to go. I'll take the blame for that, Jonás. But what's changed? So take us a little bit through those earlier years and the progression that we've made. What's changed since then?
So I think two main things has happened, technically speaking. If you remember when we started with AI, it was super clear that you have like two big fields in AI that you can solve applying supervised learning or unsupervised learning. You have this other reinforcement learning that is a little bit more complex, but in the business, in the real world of business, reinforcement learning probably is not there.
Just talking in the last episode when I was joined with Chris VASS about working with contention on some of their unsupervised learning, which we don't get to do a huge amount of, and how that was pretty exciting. Sorry.
No. Yeah. So the point is, something happens a few years ago when we started to learn how to apply something called semi-supervised learning. So imagine that you don't need, when we are working in supervised learning, you need tons of data and all perfectly labeled.
Beautifully labeled.
Exactly. Imagine that you only need a few labels. Then you can create with different approaches, different systems that can learn just for how to label. Then the other system already has this label, so it can learn by itself, more or less. So there are two big areas there. That is self-supervised, which is all large language models are based on this. you have tons of text. So if you reduce the problem from an analytical perspective, the problem is only to try to predict the next word in a sentence, because you have millions and billions of sentences. You don't need to label almost anything. You have other problems, but you don't need to label, because you have, okay, the next word, I know this is what I'm looking for. What the model is saying, is that similar, is not similar, so you have to solve the problem. And the other interesting field is the adversarial nets, that you have two different models. One is generating samples, trying and the other model is trying to classify or identify what the model is trying to. If it's called, well, if it's trying to, how you say, to don't give you the truth.
Yeah, hallucinations or
No, it's not an hallucination. In generative, it's like I'm trying to.
I'm trying to catch you out.
Exactly. Sorry, my English.
No. Try me in Spanish if you want. No, don't try me in Spanish.
Well, next episode, no. Maybe.
I said that years ago, and it's never happened. So let's not go off on another tangent.
So these two areas, everything that is happening today is related with these two things: adversarial nets, self-supervised, and the other thing is, okay, but we need like an architecture capable to get these new areas of learning and be able to really work, because if you remember, we usually have not very complex architectures when we are talking models. So Google in 2017 published "Attention is all you need," which is transformers. I'm sure that you know what are transformers. So they published their discovery, and everything changed. Since then until now, it's actually everything. I think is the most important thing that has changed everything, because the basics are the same. If you are talking about neural networks, the artificial perceptron that almost any architecture is using is almost the same that we already have time ago. So nothing basic is changed.
Well, let's explore that a little bit. What hasn't? So we got on this journey, right? We know we started with, like any technology journey, it's evolved, and it is evolving fast, and it's still evolving fast. We know that, right? What hasn't changed? What hasn't changed since those early days that we've got to, that you would pick out to say, look, we knew this episode was going to be a little bit more technical, and so let's stick on that technical. What hasn't changed? We talked about change management. That wasn't a technical aspect, but it implements the technical solution. Can talk to us a little bit about that, Jonás.
So I can give you an example that is happening today. So the biggest challenge we have right now in a project is not the amount of data that we need, the type of models, or the amount of GPUs we need, is how we can measure that this is working properly in production. Because we have like millions of different data points coming from the real world. We were in the lab, now we are in the real world, and we need to ensure that in the real world your solution is working.
This is what we call the chasm, right?
Exactly.
It hasn't gone.
No, because each case has its own problems. And the other thing I think is we mentioned before the human management. So when we are introducing these kind of things, humans that are, in this case, what we are doing is automate the decision of is some transaction in a financial institution, if some transaction is fraud or not. They have like 1,000 rules, and now we have like a black box machine that is performing better than the rules. So they want to know how we implement this in our day-to-day, because maybe it's not just a replacement, maybe it's working together and having some feedback loop that is gonna give you wisdom in some.
It brings to my mind. I remember a project not so long ago where we're implementing a. It's different to the fraud case, right? But it's the. I'm talking about the same concept. The how do you get the human out of the loop, right? How do you give confidence to get human out of the loop? I remember a project we did, which was about automating the operations of a telecoms network. So they're looking at alarms, failure points, telecom network, and we called it next best action, and we would predict the next best action, and then we perform the next action if it was an automated task that we could perform. And we produced an incredible solution, and that's not the point of the story, right? It's that great, we've done many incredible solutions, and highly accurate. It was more accurate than we ever imagined it would be. It was more accurate than we established what the boundary line was of this thing should go live. And it took us 12 months to get humans out of the loop. It took 12 months, even with that level of results, to convince an operations team to step back and let it run. And we ran in. We hadn't actually. It was a little while back. We hadn't coined the phrase "human in the loop." I hadn't heard it, but we were calling it suggestion mode at the time. Remember, it was
exactly.
It would suggest it, and it would only do it if someone clicked yes. And 99.9% of the time they're clicking yes, and you're thinking, why not just automate the yes, right?
Yeah.
But that took 12 months.
Yeah.
It took 12
I remember.
months. You remember that one?
That is normal.
Okay. I want to go. We've done past. I have no idea where we are on time, by the way. So if someone can help me out a little bit on time, that would be amazing. We've done past. We've done the bumpy road. We've done some of the pick-outs of what's changed, what hasn't changed. The chasm's still there. The change management's still there. Yes, the technology frameworks have got a little bit better. The models have got significantly better. We've got consume models as a service now that can take a little bit of that load off. We talked all about that. How about we talk a little bit about what's coming, right? Because very recently there was some big announcements around agents. Can you talk to us a little bit about what should we expect from agents?
So I'm going to use the example that you were explaining. So in the moment that this next best action is going to perform the action of do something, instead of just suggesting to do something, it will turn in an agent. So an AI agent is capable to perform actions in an environment. The environment can be physical or digital. And the other characteristic that is gonna change many things in the world is that they can self-learn from the environment and from their own trial and error things in the environment. So what we have done in Next Best Action was a mixing between a real agent and a not full AI agent, but it was part of it because it can perform actions in the real world. So the things are gonna change. The only thing
we didn't call it an agent. As normal, we're ahead of our time, right, Jonas? But we called it the AI decision making, and we built automation around that decision making in order to take the action. We didn't call it the combination thing being an agent. Right?
Yeah, because we usually are not talking in business. We are not talking about agents, but behind the curtains, we are talking about agents all the time. Agents is not something new. What is new is that we are creating agents from current knowledge, and you need to code to do it. This is what, for instance, OpenAI presented the other day in the keynote. You can create your own GPT, and this own GPT can learn about your own data and your own configuration, and also you can automate actions. So in 30 moments, the agent can trigger an action that you have set up, an action that can be performed at some point. So in the moment that you have this well configured, They can do many things that before we needed to integrate many different software and these kind of things. But agents are going to be, the most difficult thing about agents is to, the same that before, how we are going to know if this is performing properly or not. Because they are going to do real actions. So it's not just suggestions or predictions. No, they are going to do actions. So you need to be careful about if they are performing the right actions or not.
I didn't know where we were going to get in this conversation. As I said, we went off on a couple of tangents as well. But what's really interesting, right? What I'm gonna take away from this conversation, and I hope other people that are listening can draw this conclusion or maybe some other conclusions as well. Hopefully, but the technology's changed. No surprise, right? The capabilities have changed, the technology has changed, the frameworks have changed, the models have changed, right? Things are evolving. You talked about adversarial neural networks, agents. But what hasn't changed is the chasm. The chasm hasn't changed, and the change management hasn't changed. And that is telling, right? That they look like they could be here to stay. Unless someone really starts to put some work in. I think the change management, humans are humans. I don't know if you'll get past change management. I don't know if we're going to do you see anything making the chasm smaller?
So I didn't say it has not changed, but the changing is quite slower than everything else. So yes, it's so some things are happening to improve this part. There are two I can say tools that can help on these kind of things, which are the feature stores, which is something that is being very important right now because you have features already calculated and it's easier to have the same information that is happening in the lab and in the real world. Is everything in the same place, so it's easier to analyze and work with it. And the other very important thing is they are orchestrators, which is giving you the. Do you remember when we were talking about the complexity of these AI software workflows that are much more complex? So an AI orchestrator is capable to manage all these situations to be able to create a bridge to pass through the chasm.
Not a whole bridge across the chasm, but at least it's giving you a chance to jump across it, right? Because it's not so wide anymore.
Like create small bridges between all the chasms that we have, because there are many chasms. It's not only one, but there are these two things that are very recently trendy are important.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, right? And this possibly might be a little bit unfair because I'm going to ask you about a prediction. And when predictions are recorded, sometimes they don't age well, right? So danger zone.
I'm not very good at predicting things.
Danger zone time, right, Jonás? But how do you think the consumption of agents is going to happen? So I'm just trying to tie this back. In the first episode, I was here with Frankie a few weeks back, and we talked about, as we do, the different ways of consuming AI. How do you think agents are going to be consumed? Do you see a marketplace of agents that are going to be consumable like software as a service? Do you see them as, no, they're accelerators, but they're still going to be customized? Are they the equivalent of no-code, low-code automation? What does that world look like, do you think, for agents?
So in terms of consumption, all of you mentioned. You are going to have marketplaces, you are going to have more open or closed marketplaces. Maybe you are in Salesforce, and Salesforce is going to launch their own different agents inside Salesforce to do things. Same that any other big company today. But there are going to be other companies like OpenAI launching their own marketplace that anyone can launch their own their own AI agent. What is more interesting is how this is going to be created, because OpenAI has launched a way to create your own agents fully non-code. So you can create it just talking with the system. Then you maybe you still need to have some knowledge about APIs, because maybe if you want to perform some action out of OpenAI, you need some API connectivity or whatever. So some technical knowledge you need, but it's gonna be more and more no code. So software engineers are gonna be useless at some point in the future. I can say. Sorry about that. But no, it's gonna be a long time, but not useless, but are gonna be less and less useful or needed. So a lot of things are gonna happen.
It's back
combining
to that,
things.
It's back to that point where we're all sitting as software engineers, a little bit smug of, oh, we're all right. I feel a little bit sorry the taxi drivers aren't. This self-driving is going to take over. But here we are, right? We're going back to that comment we made earlier. That's the reality of the world right now. Is software developers are.
But it's not only software developers. It's everything. What is happening today here, it could be happening or not, because you know that we can create now people that doesn't exist. They can talk about some topic for hours. They can speak many languages.
The AI filibuster, right?
Exactly, and they can do all of these things because you asked it before things that are changed more, and I miss to tell about generative AI because there is something unique in generative AI.
I tried to get through an episode without talking about generative AI, but we're not going to make it, so carry on with that.
It's going to be short. But I'm always thinking about, in the history of the universe, more or less, the only form of life that we knew that are capable to generate new content and novel content, it was humans. And now, since a couple of years ago or 1 year ago, there is another thing that is capable to create new content that never existed before. And this is happening, so we are living this historical moment, and I don't think we realize that this is being a really, it's going to change everything.
Yeah. And on that note, I'm going to draw us to a close, Jonás. Thank you once again for taking time. I know you're super busy. Thank you for taking your time to come to the podcast room and talk to us about all those technical changes. It's been fascinating. Even the tangents that I took us off, it's been great. So really, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Happy.
And yeah, we'll call that a wrap. But I just before we go, I will just put a call out to our next episode of the podcast series, where Frankie will be your host. So Frankie's coming back from episode 1 to host our fourth episode in a couple of weeks. He's going to be joined by Javier Yuste, the CDO of Zurich Insurance. So that's going to be back to an industry-focused conversation there. So we're moving all over the map on this AI, on this AI conversation, like the multi-dimensional subject that it is. But once again, thank you, Jonás.